able to attend. Okay, great. Let's see here. So my name is Kristen Commander, and I am the part-time and transfer student advisor. So some of your students may have already heard from me if they have their schedules, or they will be hearing from me. So our office has been working on getting all of those squared away and set up for the fall. And so I will be working with students. And so we'll talk about what that looks like. Like Christina had said, with their schedules, our office and everything that we can offer for your students, and then how to contact us and for your students to be able to work with us and stay in touch with us once they are here at SHU. So I'm going to go through, we have a little bit of a presentation, and then at the end, we do also have a Q&A. So if you have questions, not only will we provide our contact information of where you can go if you have specific questions, or we will also have like the Q&A for general questions. If there's anything that we didn't touch on or that you wanted us to go into further. So let me jump in. So our office is the Office of Student Advising and Success, like Christina had said. And so our office comprises of Jen McLaughlin, who is our executive director, Christina, who had introduced herself. We also have Greg Canzio, who is our student success coordinator. And so we'll talk a little bit about what that role looks like, and how Greg and Elizabeth, as well as a student success coordinator, can help to support students once they're here at Sacred Heart, and then myself, who also I already introduced. So, okay. So what do we provide? So I don't know if Christina.
My slides weren't syncing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the different services we provide to students. So something that we are very strong and passionate about is meeting students where they're at. So this is a very brief description of the things that we do, but our interactions with students vary based on their specific needs. So we meet with students on time management and organization, obviously, to make sure they're on track, to help them stay connected with professors, to make sure they're getting assignments in on time, all that kind of stuff. Study and test taking strategies to make sure they're feeling comfortable and confident in classes, to feel prepared for those exams. Stress reduction techniques, obviously. That is something that we work with a lot. We know how important it is. We know how important it is for students to feel comfortable in classes and with what they're doing and not feel super overwhelmed. Obviously, there's outside factors that can really hinder a student's progression, work-life balance, all those kinds of things. So we want to make sure that they're not feeling super overwhelmed. Tutorials on how to use SPA, student planning and advising. You're going to hear a little bit about that. That's our registration system. That's where students can find their schedules, their final grades, their mid-semester grades, their course schedules for each semester, and that is also where they get registered. Something Kristen will talk about a little bit, but transfer students come in with a schedule based on very different touch points on the courses that they need to be in, because we want to make sure that students are in the appropriate courses that help them graduate with their intended degree, and aren't a course or isn't a course that they have taken already. So that looks a little different for each student, and SPA helps us with that process. Obviously, discussions on university policy and procedures, academic support, whatever that looks like, kind of like what I said, talking with professors, helping write emails. A lot of students come in and they don't know how to do that. So that's something we work with them on. And then referrals to various campus resources. So we work very closely with the Office of Student Accessibility, which is for any students who have disclosed accommodations with the university. We work closely with residential life, student life, the deans of various departments. So we really work to make sure each student is receiving that holistic support that they need. And then everything in between.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the registration process. So we are actively working on registering transfer students. So basically the way that it works is their admissions counselor would provide the link to them on how to fill out their academic questionnaire. So it's when they also are registering for orientation. And so at that point, they would fill out their preferences. If they have any scheduling conflicts, they would include information that would help us be able to build their schedules. So um, like Christina had said, we factor all of those things in. So we are looking at their transfer credits. The registrar's office provides us with an evaluation. And so that is something that we work off of to make sure that they are in classes that they haven't already taken. We also work around scheduling conflicts. So if your student is an athlete or if they are working, that's something that we factor in. With athletics, we are provided a practice time schedule for all of we work with athletics and they give that to us so we can build their schedule around that. We are able to build around, like if they have lifts, that's something that they'll work with their coach and other teammates where they can find other times to be able to do that. So there's more flexibility with that. And same thing when it comes to club sports. Unfortunately, we're just not able to build around and accommodate for club sports. And moving forward in the future, students will also be able to build their own schedules and register themselves. So if that's something that they want to get involved in and feel really strongly about, then they can do their best. But unfortunately, just because of course availability and, all the other factors, we just aren't able to build around club sports. Obviously, we're also factoring in major requirements. So with their declared major, we want to make sure that they're in the courses that they need or classes they need to be able to progress along. Course availability, like I said, as we get closer, gets a little bit trickier. So we do our best to get them in the courses that they need and get their schedule set. We also factor in if a student is commuting. We really try hard to limit days that they're on campus so they're not driving back and forth as much or trying to be mindful and considerate of like breaks in their schedule. We try to condense it as much as possible to make life easier for our commuting students. And then also course preferences. So students are able to also let us know, for foundational course requirements, if they have preferences, if they really want to take religion before taking a fine art or things like that, we try to also factor that in. So there's it's sort of like a puzzle. And so we work really hard to get students in courses that they need and that, they want to take and work with their schedules. So once students have their schedule, an email is sent to their Sacred Heart email to make them aware that they've been registered. And I also, there's a link provided for how they can access SPA where they can see their schedule. And so if students have issues with their schedule or questions about courses, our office works with them. So a lot of times they'll either reply back to the email, with questions or things. And so we will continue to work with them up through classes starting and through add drop to, answer questions and help with making adjustments that are needed to their schedule. Once they are here at Sacred Heart and have started, they will be assigned an academic advisor within their declared major. So within their department, they'll be assigned an academic advisor who will work with them for the remainder of their time at Sacred Heart, so long as they stay in the same major. So that's something that will be assigned. Same thing if they have a minor, they will also be assigned a minor within that program. So is there anything I'm missing, Christina?
I just want to in really quick. One thing that we really like students to start doing early on, and many of your students probably are, but just something to, be aware of. Kristen and I communicate with students regularly when we're doing these schedules. A lot of what she is saying is, there's a lot of restrictions, obviously, so we try our best to accommodate each student. So a lot of times we'll reach out and say, are you interested in a minor? Is there a specific course that you're looking to take? Because a lot of that information will then help us build into a full-time schedule. many students come in with not having the prerequisites for the courses or the majors that they're hoping to declare, which limits them. You know, the prerequisites are needed in order to take the higher level courses, much of what Kristen was talking about. So we look to try and build a schedule that meets the requirements, but also is of their interest. And that is challenging at times. So we ask that students really check their email regularly if there is an issue. Like some of your students may have been waiting for a schedule, and I'm sure, you know, we've talked about this too, for the last couple of weeks. And a lot of that is because Kristen and I have been working to get specific courses open because we didn't have availability. And thankfully that process has started and we were able to do that. But that is a huge delay that we have throughout the summer because while transfer students are getting registered, the incoming class is getting registered. So it's really a fun game where we go back and forth on stealing seats from classes. And our entire office is in the process of doing that. So we work collaboratively to make sure that we are finding the appropriate courses that meet your student schedule and so on and so forth. So it's a very long process, but know that we are working very hard to make sure that those requirements that your student has are being met. We want to make sure that everybody is happy and comfortable and knowledgeable of their schedules and the courses. And that we're meeting them where they're at, like we had said earlier on. It's very important to us. So that is typically why there is a delay. So if you haven't received a schedule yet, you've probably been one of the students that have fallen victim to small class availability.
And that's so, thank you for saying that, because that was another thing. So if your student hasn't received like an email yet that they've been registered or an email about their schedule, it may be because, so if they haven't filled out that academic questionnaire, that is what triggers us to go in and build their schedule. So if they need help finding that, I believe their admissions counselor, most of them are working with Stephanie Mila. And so she would be their contact person. She would be able to provide the link so they could fill that out, because that has all of the information that we're pulling on, along with their transfer evaluation, for us to be able to get them registered. So that may be a reason why. Or in some cases, there are students that are coming in that need very specific upper level courses. We're trying to figure out if courses are already full, if we have availability to over enroll, or what kind of permission. So we're working with a lot of deans and chairs in the departments to accommodate students. So if your student has filled out that academic questionnaire and hasn't received a schedule yet, there's a very good chance that we are waiting to hear back from a department chair or a dean for feedback on how we can build their schedule and what options we have. So there's definitely a lot of work behind the scenes. And I'll go to the next slide, because if your student hasn't received a schedule, or if they have questions about their schedule, so I wanted to provide our contact information. So the QR code that's available here will give the information for our office. So it's our office and all of our members. We also have Student Success at Sacred Heart for general questions. But if your student has a specific question about their schedule for the fall, or, they're looking for information, or they, haven't received a schedule, they can email transfer registration at Sacred Heart. And I would be able to, look into it and provide some further information. So, and then also, if there's questions regarding accommodations, I've also provided its accessibility at sacredheart.edu. They're really great, and they can help you with that process and answer any questions and provide additional information in regards to accommodations. Am I missing anything? I think that was.
Oh yeah, I think that's pretty much it. The next is just if you guys have any questions. This is the Q&A portion. Please feel free to write any of your questions, and Kristen and I will do our best in answering those for you. We are also recording this session, and everybody that has signed up will receive the session. So if you think of things tomorrow, next week, you know how to reach out. Like Kristen has said, we are here throughout the summer, so we are available to answer questions at any time. I think the biggest component is if your student hasn't filled out their VZ, that paperwork that their admissions counselor provides them, that would be the holdup. And that is what we need in order to start the process, and we cannot start the process without that information. So that would be the next step. Any questions? So if you don't have any questions at this time, we will end this session. If you feel more comfortable sending an email or I'm sorry, Randall, do you have a question?
If you click on, you should see the Q&A little button. You can type a question in there.
But if you think of something and you would rather email it to us than talk about it here, whichever email you prefer works. Transfer registration is great. Student success is great. We have access to everything. And we try our best to answer as quickly as we can. But like I said, we have a lot going on, so it might not be right away, but we will get to it as soon as we can.
Definitely. And hopefully this was helpful just to give some information about what our office can provide to your students once they're here, and also to provide some clarity on their schedules and how all of that works. And so I know, if your student hasn't been registered, we've been working on a whole lot of students for most of the day. So, we have a lot of students that we are actively working on, hoping to get set this week. And that will be rolling as students complete their questionnaires. So, you'll want to have them definitely check their Sacred Heart email. That's where I'll be communicating with them once they're registered or to ask any questions.
One last thing, when your student attends transfer orientation, our office presents to them. So we explain their schedules once they receive them when they're here, why they've been put into these classes, why these classes are important that they take, and why it is important for them to take them now versus down the road. So that's all, definitely a conversation that we can have with them one-on-one. If things were to come up, down the road and they'd like to have like an in-person conversation, then we have that time with them during orientation.
Okay. And Hart, I just, I'll send you an email. I just chatted, but I'll send you an email following up with information about getting registered. So I'll send you a separate email to your Sacred Heart email. So check there regarding your schedule for the fall.
If there are no other questions, we're going to end the session. We really thank you for being here with us. Please reach out moving forward, and we're excited to have your students here in the fall.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great night.